connectivity and the global gateway. Estonia, owing to its history and geography, has long been wary of unreliable partners. It was our conscious decision many years ago to decouple ourselves from Russian energy. This came at a considerable cost. Today, Estonia is one of the few European countries least reliant on Russian gas. We knew that the prevention is better and far less costly than the cure. This is why, at the same venue just 1 year ago, Estonia introduced Trusted Connectivity, a conceptual framework for organizing political and economic relations among trusted partners, namely trusted partners across the world who are committed to upholding the rules-based order and to protecting human rights and individual freedom. The proposition of trusted connectivity is straightforward: to connect the like-minded countries through trusted partnerships based on shared interests and values and the highest standards, thus reinforcing trust in global political and economic relations across the free world. The European Union's Global Gateway is the embodiment of trusted connectivity in practice. It is Team Europe's positive value-based offer of cooperation to developed countries and emerging economies alike. It is an offer to deliver economic and energy security and to bridge digital divides. Governments, financial institutions and the private sector all working together to boost competitiveness, deliver benefits to partners and empower local communities. The Global Gateway also advances Europe's strategic autonomy, being reflection of our trailblazing legislation on critical raw materials, batteries and semiconductors. And it is already delivering on the ground in Africa, the Western Balkans, Latin America, the Caucasus, Central Asia, with many more projects soon to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, the free world's united front against authoritarianism is being tested, and it's growing stronger in it. We have seen the recent introduction of many trusted connectivity initiatives, not only the Global Gateway, but also G7's Partnership for Infrastructure and Investment, the 3 Cs Initiative, the United Kingdom's Clean Green Initiative, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, Africa's Agenda 2063. These will allow us to build partnerships, not dependencies. It is trusted connectivity that ties these many initiatives together. As a concept, it clearly expresses the values we hold dear. As a framework, it enables practical interoperability across these initiatives by creating a mutual understanding. And it offers the necessary context for engaging with authoritarian regimes. Trusted connectivity informs our decoupling from unreliable partners, replacing these with trusted alternatives, whether we talk about the global value chains, submarine cables, finance, or new technologies. And this is vital, because it is connectivity, digital and physical infrastructure, that is at the heart of our moment in crisis. Connectivity links up national, economic, energy and cyber security. It links up the digital and green transformations. It links up trade and supply chains. Connectivity is the smartphone in your pocket, the lights in this room, and the tax return you submit online. It is the source code of our e-government, and it's the software in 5G networks. And thus, our digital existence also reflects our values and standards. There is immense global demand for infrastructure. We cannot let autocracies be the ones who respond to this demand uncontested. We have seen where this leads. a synergy of failures. Investments from autocracies corrode good governance and pollute the environment. They drive the recipient country into debt trap. This is the high cost of a dependence, and the most harm is suffered by the most vulnerable. Dear participants, we stand strongest when we stand united. The European Union responded to our moment in crisis with solidarity and resolve. All together as Team Europe, NATO and the wider transatlantic community are stronger than before. Our offer to the world of positive, values-based, trusted partnerships is a message that rings louder than it rang before. And I strongly believe we are more ready to rise to the occasion than before. As we respond to our shared challenges today, we are tracing a path to brighter tomorrow. On this path, we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to pay the premium of trust, or are we not? I think the answer is very clear. Trust may come at the price, but it is a price worth paying. We cannot let the sacrifices Ukraine has made be in vain. We have to learn the lessons of over-reliance and interdependence. We have to ensure that freedom, prosperity, security, and democracy prevail. So let us stand together. Let us show we are in it for the long haul. Let us build a better tomorrow together. Alongside with our friends from the United States, the G7, Indo-Pacific, Africa, Latin America, and beyond. This is the promise of trusted connectivity and the global gateway. I'm glad to welcome Ursula von der Leyen here with us today to tell us about the positive vision of a global gateway. I commend her personal leadership on this issue and to this initiative. I welcome all of you who are here in person and also those who are watching us online. We will not resolve our problems in these 2 short days, but laying the groundwork begins here and now. This is what the Tallinn Digital Summit is all about, a platform for the Global Gateway and other trusted connectivity initiatives to convene and coordinate, to mobilize our collective power across all collective efforts. And I'm positive Tallinn will continue to offer a crucial meeting place for European and other global leaders to make trust, not dependency, key part of the future we are building. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for always being so honest and straightforward. I think we all need this reality check. But for now, you also mentioned the Global Gateway, and we will have a short video introducing us to realize what Global Gateway means to each and every one of us.
I learned so many different things that I never could have discovered by myself.
Creo que las conexiones digitales, que al fin y al cabo son conexiones humanas.
Il y a une solidarité énorme qu'on ne peut pas mesurer.
El mundo es de todos. En pequeños pasos podemos lograr grandes cosas juntos.
With that, I'm more than glad and very honored to invite on the stage Madam von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission. Please.
Dear Prime Minister, my dear Kaya, dear Prime Minister Kallas, Prime Minister Ngriante, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to join you here today in Tallinn at the Digital Summit. Here in Estonia, the word of this conference, connectivity, has a very special sound. I mean, you have next door a country that is trying to use our interconnections as a weapon against us. Because Russia is not only waging war on Ukraine, Russia is waging war on our energy, on our democracies, on our values. And Estonia, like many of the Baltic states, has been warning Europe since years about the dangers of our dependency on Russian fossil fuels. And you were right. You were right, and Europe should have followed your example earlier. Ever since you broke free from Soviet rule, you've been working very hard to get rid of Russian fossil fuels and to disconnect from the Russian grid. You have invested heavily into renewable energy, into LNG terminals, into new interconnectors with the rest of Europe. And on top, you have become global leaders in cybersecurity and in the digital field. Today, you're standing strong before a hostile neighbor. So from a small country like yours comes a great example for our entire European Union. This must be a lesson for all of us, especially as the war in Ukraine has now entered a new phase. Faced with the brave Ukrainian resistance, the Kremlin has once again escalated its aggression to a new level. Putin has launched Russia's first mobilization since World War II. He has used sham referenda in an illegal attempt to change international borders by force. All of this while redoubling his efforts to destabilize global energy security. But this will only strengthen our resolve to support Ukraine as long as it takes. But this new phase of the war also called for renewed action on our energy independence, on our infrastructure, and on building new partnerships with the rest of the world. In short, it calls for a new investment into trusted connectivity. Today, I would like to focus on three issues in particular. The first one is we need to protect our critical infrastructure. The second topic is about we need to keep replacing unsustainable dependency with more balanced cooperation. And the third topic is about that we need to continue to build trust in global connectivity. Let me begin with the physical infrastructure that underpins connectivity. The acts of sabotage against the Nord Stream pipelines have shown how vulnerable our critical infrastructure is. Pipelines and underwater cable connect European citizens and the companies across the world. They are the lifelines of financial markets and global trade. And they are essential for services such as modern healthcare, for example, or energy. Submarine fiber optic cables carry 99% of global internet traffic. And now, for the very first time in modern history, this infrastructure has become a target. So the task ahead of us is clear. We need to better protect our lifelines of the world economy. And we have carved out 5 different strands of actions. And let me briefly reflect on them with you here. First of all, of course, we must be better prepared. Now, the good news is that we have just brand new European legislation which will strengthen the resilience of critical EU entities. So what we have to do now with this new legislation that was done under the French presidency, what we have to do now is implement it, put it on the ground, that it is really working and developing a track record. Second, we need to stress test our infrastructure. We need to identify the weak points and prepare our reaction to sudden disruption. We all know how important stress tests are to make sure that everyone knows what to do in a case of emergency. So we will work with the member states to do these stress tests in the field of energy and other high-risk sectors such as offshore digital and the electricity infrastructure, for example. The third point is we will increase our capacity on the European level to respond through our civil protection mechanism if needed. With this, we can support member states in case of disruption of critical infrastructure with very practical things like fuel supplies, generators, shelter capacity. All these things have to be in place. And then we will make best use of our satellite surveillance capacity to detect potential threats. We have this capacity. We should use it much, much more to really know what's going on in the different areas of our critical infrastructure. And last but not least, we will strengthen cooperation, of course, with NATO on this subject and partners like, for example, our American friends. Critical infrastructure is the new frontier of warfare, and Europe will be prepared. In the same spirit, we have to step up our support for our Ukrainian friends. Time and again, you have watched it and been witnessing this in the last month, Russia has been trying to take down Ukraine's IT systems. Therefore, the European Union has mobilized financial support for emergency cybersecurity for Ukraine. We've helped move government servers to safe locations. And this direct assistance is multiplied by member states. Many thanks also to our host, Estonia. You've done a great job on that one. I know you've done a great job on that one because you understand very well by bitter experience that in the struggle between democracy and autocracy, the digital sphere is not a sideshow, but it is front line. This is the critical infrastructure and the question how we can better prepare to protect it, the physical infrastructure. Let me move on to the second point. That is that we have to replace unsustainable dependency, which we do have, with balanced cooperation that we want with trusted partners. For that, we have to double down on our positive engagement with the rest of the world and continue to act in a spirit of openness, of cooperation, and of trust. That's the motto of this summit. Just last year, just to give you some examples, we inaugurated the Ella Link transatlantic cable connecting Europe with Latin America. Revolutionary. And we're now deploying a new fiber optic cable under the Black Sea. It will diversify internet access across Central Asia and reduce dependency on terrestrial cables that go through Russia. This project is one of the typical projects of Global Gateway. We've heard already a lot about it. Global Gateway, as you know, our big investment project of 300 billion euros for investments abroad in trusted connectivity. And I'm very glad to see the Prime Minister here of Rwanda that is present. We have, for example, a typical Global Gateway project that is building up vaccination manufacturing capacity. With the experience of the pandemic, we have decided to say, listen, there needs to be manufacturing capacity in Africa of mRNA vaccines, not only for COVID, but potentially later to fight malaria, tuberculosis, and other diseases, killing diseases. And here we've done what is typical for Global Gateway, come with public money, but also come with our legal framework, for example, for pharmaceuticals that has to be in place, attract private capital, have a partner on the ground that is working with us to make sure that the project develops, This is one of the typical projects we have to, and we need more infrastructure like this in our neighborhood, managed through Global Gateway and funded through Global Gateway. We also need this kind of infrastructure to connect Ukraine, to connect Moldova, Georgia, and the Western Balkans more tightly to our union. And we can do it. We have the experience. We have shown this. Let me give you an example that is typical. It was about 2 weeks after Russia's invasion that we successfully connected the European electrical grid with the Ukrainian electrical grid. They decoupled from Russia. And that was a move, I was told before the war, that was planned for 2024. So, 2 years ahead of us. We were able to manage that and to do that in 2 weeks. And these are exactly the projects that have to be done through Global Gateway. Here we needed to really join forces, of course to invest massively, but we did it within 2 weeks, was what planned for 2 years. So now Ukraine is an important new importer of electricity to the European Union. That creates a revenue stream for Ukraine, and our union can rely on electricity from Ukraine to help tackle the energy crisis. And in case of need, we can provide them with electricity. This is just one example in the broad attempt to get rid of Russian energy supplies. We have been working hard the last 7 months since Russia invaded Ukraine, and we've been working with success to get rid of our dependency on Russian fossil fuels. We have completely cut off the supply of Russian coal. And if I can give you 2 figures what Russian gas is concerned, last year, of all the gas imported to the European Union, 40% was Russian gas. Now in 7 months, we've been able to decrease that dependency down to 7.5% only of Russian gas in the overall supply of European gas from abroad. Again, crucial was here having the right infrastructure in place. And the good news is that Europe is making more progress by the day. The speed is accelerating because the pressure is high, and that's good. Just some days ago, we inaugurated a new gas interconnector between Bulgaria and Greece. It brings gas from Azerbaijan and from Mediterranean LNG terminals, not only via Greece to Bulgaria, but also to Romania, Serbia, and North Macedonia. So these interconnections are game changers in Europe's energy supply and energy security. This means access to trusted and reliable sources of energy everywhere in our union, and it means freedom from Russian dependency and freedom from Russian blackmail. Dear Kaya, you were so right when you were reminding us of the real price tag that is attached to dependency on Russia. You've been describing it in your introductory remarks. We need to keep this firmly in mind as we transition to renewable sources of energy. Because yes, it comes with an investment, but it's worth it. Because if you look at the dependency and the price tag that is coming with the dependency, it is much, much more needed to get rid of this dependency, invest in renewables, and find your independence. Every kilowatt hour that we receive electricity or energy from solar or wind is not only good for our climate, it's also good for our climate, and it's necessary, but it's good for our independence and our security of supply. We have to be, if we invest more and more into renewables in the future, also from the very start on, vigilant, and we have to be strategic. Because renewables, if we want to produce them, often depend on scarce raw materials. And that's another topic I want to raise here. You all know the magnets for wind turbines, the cell for solar panels. They all need rare minerals or rare raw materials, and you know the examples. By 2030, Europe's demand on those rare earth metals will increase fivefold, 5 times what we use today. And today it's already a scarce resource. So the first and foremost good news behind this fivefold is that it shows that our European Green Deal is moving fast. That's good news. The not so good news is that one country dominates the market, and that is China. So we have to avoid falling into the same dependency from China as we were with oil and gas from Russia. And we have to start now. And that is why we're working on a European Critical Raw Materials Act. It will help to diversify our supply chains towards trusted partner. The motto of this summit, trusted connectivity. And this will be another crucial domain for Global Gateway. Global Gateway will mobilize the public and private investment that is needed on the ground, investments in projects abroad that connect us. But we also have to do our own homework. And let me switch to topics we sometimes do not look at enough. Let me take the topic of semiconductors, for example, which is a good example of our overarching theme of new forms of cooperation. As you all know, semiconductors are in every digital device, from cars to phones to medical equipment. Without chips, no modern economy. This is clear. Let me give an example how crucial these semiconductors are in a daily life. We have sanctions the export of semiconductors to Russia. We've banned all export of semiconductors. And the impact of these sanctions is now very real, tangible on the ground in Russia. The Russian military, for example, cannibalizes by now refrigerators and washing machines to take out the semiconductors, trying to get the semiconductors for their military hardware. So semiconductors are crucial, but not only for others, they are also crucial for us. And therefore, our aim is to increase our global market share by 20% to 20% by 2030. And we have all we need to achieve this. What are we doing? We have world-class research and testing facilities. This is attractive for investors, but not enough to create the necessary ecosystem. Thus, with our European Chips Act, we've mobilized billions of investment for development, for mass production of next-generation chips. We've just approved, for example, the first state aid decision, given the go-ahead to a €730 million investment by a Franco-Italian company to build a new facility in Sicily. It will produce, for the very first time in Europe, large-scale silicon carbide wafers, the base of all semiconductors. And in the coming months, a trusted American company is set to break ground with its new chips plant in Germany, a €17 billion investment. That is what trusted connectivity looks like in reality. And that brings me to my third and final point. It is about trusted connectivity. Who defines the rules of the game? High tech is great, but what is the purpose you use it for? Who is setting the standards? Who is setting the standards that will govern and protect our societies? Is it the market? Is it the government, like in China? Or is it the human-centric approach? That is our European approach. Think from the individual and his or her rights. Take the GDPR, as you know, born in Europe. Might not be perfect, but for the very first time, the rules of the game have been defined. And now they are setting data protection, and they are setting standards from here, not only in Europe, but also in Silicon Valley, for example. They are the benchmark for data protection in Silicon Valley. Or take our Digital Markets and Digital Services Act. Here again, Europe is on the vanguard, bringing the rules of the analog world into the digital world. For the very first time, there are clear rules on how to deal with topics like hate speech, disinformation, terrorist content online. We're doing the same for product cybersecurity with a regulation proposed next month. Now, setting standards for Europe is good. But it is our engagement with our trusted partners that makes European standards finally global standards. This is one of the reasons, for example, why our work with the United States and recently also with India through our Trade and Technology Council is so important. Set the standards with your friends. Or in addition, we have teamed up with the G7 Partnership for Global Infrastructure. You were describing it, Kaya. With our combined package of $600 billion, we're leveraging not just our investments, that's important, but also our standard-setting power. Thus, step by step, we are re-anchoring the values and rules-based order on firmer ground in a modern economy, working with friends, working with partners through trusted connectivity. The Roman statesman Cicero famously said, "The shifts of fortune test the reliability of friends." I'm glad to be among friends, for we cannot always control what history has in store for us, but we can shape our fortunes. We can influence it by standing tall for our values and by standing united with our trusted partners and our friends. Thank you very much.